Welcome to our series, Connecting Conversations. I'm Jeff Green, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Shawanda.
I'm Janae Green.
I'm Dante.
And today we are talking on the conversation of double standards. Now let's start with double standards that we see in the church. We know that they're there, but in what manner and why do you think that they are there?
Well, I think the obvious is that there's more male pastors.
Okay.
And I feel like that's what we've all seen growing up, and that just seems like the normal. But I am curious how many women aspire to be pastors and how much more difficult it is for them to actually get to that level, because it's just not the norm.
I think the tradition plays a really big role in it. Like, we've gotten so used to this being the norm that we never really got out of it.
Right.
So even like you said, when women do want to jump into it, where? How do I
Right.
start? There's no real foundation to go off of. So I get what you're saying on that end, for sure.
For me, unfortunately, I just feel that women aren't really acknowledged as pastoral or ministerial material, even though we can be wives, we can be mothers, we can be deaconesses and, help with the kids in the church and all that type of stuff. But when it comes to actually being a pastor and leading a ministry, I just don't feel, specifically in our church, that they can really, the men they don't uphold them to that standard.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that women are allowed to lead in the church when it comes to music, right? Mm-hmm. Or when it comes to kids ministry, right? Things of that sort. But when it comes to actual pastoral duties, right? Or being able to get their own church or being ordained, that's when it gets a little fuzzy, and that's where the double standard starts to rear its ugly head.
So what do you guys think are the steps that need to be taken within the church for women to actually be able to lead? Who's the first person that has to make a change?
That's a good one. I would say, I think it's a really great idea that we talk about it more. It's not talked about. We don't bring it up because nobody really feels uncomfortable saying one set group of people can't do something.
Right.
So we all want to be inclusive, especially in the church. We say everybody's included, everybody should have a say,
Right.
everybody should have a role. We're the body of Christ. But then we automatically start chopping off the limbs when we decide that other people can't do certain things for any reason outside of they love God.
Yeah.
It's automatically chopped off that limb instead of you being a part of the body. You can be around, but you might not do too much moving.
Yeah. I think, honestly, they should just give them the opportunity. Just mentor them. If you're a male pastor, just go out of your way to do what you need to do to get women into the field.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we've seen a lot in the church and outside of the church. So, with companies, the CEO is typically a male. Even in female-dominated industries, the person that's the highest up is usually a male, which is an issue because they're these businesses that are run by females, but the person leading is a male, and that doesn't seem right to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's an issue with all of us is that we can't look at a woman as the leader.
No, that's definitely something we need to address, especially in the church.
Yeah.
Especially in the church.
I feel that personally we need to address it in the church because honestly, if you look at the Bible, the first person to really get the message of Jesus out was a woman, was the woman at the well. But now we're here in 2021 and now we're saying that women can't be pastors or ministerial material, but the first person to ever get the message of Jesus out there was a woman. So I really just want to see how the church really aligns that and really makes that make sense. So how can you exclude this group of people when this woman kind of jump-started the ministry of Jesus?
And going off what you're saying as far as how do we fix this issue in the church, let's make it even more tangible. What's the first step? Do we start with the individual churches? Is it something that we take to the individual pastors? Is this something that we take directly to the conference, right? And hold a meeting, or hold seminars or anything? What would that look like? What would the first step be?
I think honestly, and for our church connection, because we are so out there, we're so for the cause, we do a lot of things that are not of norm, especially the Adventist church. It would be to start with the pastor. It would be to have the pastor mentor a woman who aspires to be a pastor and give her some of those leadership roles and give her some of those duties that it takes to be a pastor. So it starts with our local churches and our local pastors.
I think you made a good point. I think that it's also, having momentum behind a cause. So if there are people in the church that are saying, we want to see more women leading, and they take this to, whoever that person is that is going to be the decision maker, I think seeing that this is a need amongst more than one person, or amongst more than just a woman saying, I want to lead. More people wanting to see women lead, I think is going to only help her get there.
Yeah.
I think, obviously we know that there's double standards in the church and in businesses, but what are other topics that you guys think that double standards kind of plays into a lot?
Double standards with dating, with relationships, the whole man and whatever the dynamic is.
Yeah.
Especially on the first date. First date, the man is always expected to pay.
As
And
he
like,
should.
and I'm okay with that. Like, it's tradition. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm a traditional person when it comes to certain things. I'm cool with that. I think for me, it goes a long way to where as the dates can, to progress and we go on a second and third and we're doing more things together, it's not me paying for everything. It's her. Whenever she offers, she's like, no, I got dinner tonight, or I got the movie tonight, or I got whatever activity you're doing. Like, that is so attractive because we're always talking about how the relationships, you want to be a team, right? You guys
Yeah.
want to be equal. But it's really not feeling equal if I'm always shelling out the money, right? But when you guys are both putting into it and you're having a good time, I think that goes a long way.
I think it goes back to courting. So I think that men courting women, it's just something that I can't even really explain it eloquently why it's important, but it's like you want to show up front that I really care about you. I want to plan this really great evening with you, and I'm gonna pay for it because I'm asking you out.
Okay.
Typically, let's just say, not always, but usually the man is asking the woman out.
Okay.
So he pays for it. I don't think that should be a question. I don't think that I should even have to reach in my bag and pretend I'm about to pay for it when you ask me out.
Okay.
Now, yes, as the dates start to progress, if we're actually dating, if you're no longer courting me, then yes, I can potentially pay for dinner or something. Or if it was my idea, my activity, maybe I can pay. But in the courting stage is very important. And men need to work on courting a little bit longer because they think, okay, I took her on one date and I paid for it, and then now we can chill at home. No.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So let me ask a definite question. When does courting end? Is there a specific?
There's not a time.
And-
You
so it should
feel
just
it.
go on forever. Oh,
No,
okay.
you feel it. When you guys are we are kind of comfortable. Maybe you've decided that you're officially boyfriend and girlfriend, but you're not any longer trying to impress them, for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Courting is the stage where it's this is what you can look forward to in our relationship. And I've even told a guy that I was dating that he didn't court me long enough.
Okay.
You need to, if I feel like you're too soon getting comfortable with me pretending to pay or potentially paying, you didn't court me long enough.
Okay. I feel it. So from my perspective, I'm a guy who I don't mind paying. It's never been an issue for me. But I went out with a young lady and on a dinner date with her parents. And her mom told me, you should not do that to her. Don't always pay for everything. She has a job like you have a job. You both work at the same place. She works full time. She makes money too. I am requesting that you not do that. And that was the first.
Interesting.
That's never happened to me before.
Yeah.
But listen, having to deal with it face on it felt like a lot. I don't know about that. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's only because I've been groomed into believing I should do it. I mean, I don't mind it. But at the same time, I actually had to have someone's mother tell me, don't do that. We spoil her enough. You don't need to.
I was the same way. Every relationship I've had, I've always paid. Even as, the dates were progressing. It wasn't until recent relationships where, I'm older, the women that I date are older. They're, like you said, they got their careers, their jobs. And they're doing the team front. They're saying no, I got it. That was new to me.
Yeah.
But I did like the way that felt though, because it wasn't again, for lack of a better words, it wasn't she's a liability or something that I'm always having to, put money into and just dang, I'm getting flat. It's we really don't have to worry about the money as much because it's out of sight, out of mind. It's oh, you got this one, we don't keep track of it.
Yeah.
It's just whoever wants to get it, they get it. And it's really light doing it that way. And I feel like it's just organic to me.
Okay.
And I think that like if eventually it is a more even thing, like if women are paying and men are paying, then men need to be okay with maybe they're not the head of the household. Like maybe we do, make the same amount or whatnot. So why are you the man of the house if I'm coming equally with my money? Like why? So it's like if you're not going to, if your double standard is going to be gone, like, men don't pay for everything, then we split this house equally.
But I think that goes beyond money though, because one of the things that women look for in men, usually, I'm not going to generalize, but from speaking to women myself, they look for security.
Right.
And as security, you are the man of the house, you're the protector of the home.
Yeah.
So it's beyond money.
Yes.
It's really just what you give to her, the security that you provide for her, the security that you provide for your home, the security that you provide for your future offspring,
Right.
that can help you be classified as the man of the
And
house.
I agree with that. And I will say, money is definitely a form of security. But if I know that we're splitting it, I'm not 100% secure with you. So it's like we're splitting this. We're joining forces. We are going to be secure together. This is our household. If you were paying for everything, taking care of everything, that is security that like I know you got everything. And then I feel like you are the man of the household. But if we're splitting and that's okay, we're splitting responsibilities. We are splitting this household. You are not the man of the household. Yes, you may do certain things, but if I am raising the kids, cleaning, whatever, and you're fixing things around the house, we have different responsibilities, but they're equally as important. Not one of those outweighs the other.
And I get that. One way that I slowly began to like grow more accepting with her covering things, I would pay for dinner and she would pay for dessert. Like if we went and got dinner somewhere, like I would not make her, I don't even want to say let her. She would pay for dessert and I would pay for dinner. It was a smaller amount, but it made me comfortable. She was comfortable. But just to jump a little bit further than that, she makes a little bit more money than I do. Mm-hmm. So when you talked about like women leading the household, currently a lot of women make a little bit more than the men.
And are you cool with that? How do you feel
So
about that?
okay, I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Like I said, I was always used to paying for everything between us. So I never even knew that she made more money until we openly talked about it. Mm-hmm. So it did slightly shift my mindset, but it's hard to say why. Like I don't care that you make more money. Before I knew, I didn't care. But then once I knew, it was like, well, you could probably do all of this on your own without me.
Honestly, I think it's because you were taught and you were raised that I'm the man. Yeah. This is my job. I'm supposed to provide and care for and protect you. So if you're bringing in more money than me, like you kind of don't need me at this point because you got it, you straight. So you bringing on all the bacon, you know what I'm saying? So you got it. So that's why you don't. I feel like that's kind of why you feel that way because you were taught, okay, you're supposed to take care of your woman, but you being in a relationship with her and her making more money, she's like, okay, well, I don't need to take care of her because she can take care of herself.
Yeah, I feel the opposite. Like, I'm completely cool with it because I love having a woman who is independent. She doesn't need me, but she wants me. Like, she doesn't need me, but she still chooses me, you know? And for me, that's really attractive. You know, I don't want somebody who is constantly having to depend on me for everything. Again, common thing with me, the whole team thing. It goes back to that every time. And so if she makes more money than me, like I'm cool because that's more money going into the household. Like I don't have to be the breadwinner. I'm cool with that. I'm secure enough to be fine with that.
So another double standard that really bothers me is when it comes to sexuality amongst men and women. So how, if a woman has a high body count, if she slept with a lot of people or just enjoys sex, she is viewed as a hoe or other names that we don't need to say. But with men, it is completely fine.
And why is that?
That really bothers me.
Well.
And can I add in some men that have that high body count still have a problem if a woman does as well. Like it's still unattractive to them.
But they equally hoeing.
Right.
I'm sorry, I couldn't find a better name, but they're equally hoeing. But for him, it's a problem.
It's unattractive. But when he's doing the same exact thing.
But for her, she's just like, oh well, that's just what guys do.
That's really when it's a problem. What do you guys have to say about that?
Pretty loaded.
Yeah, so I feel like it is a double standard if he has a high body count, she has a high body count, and he has a problem with it.
Yeah.
But there are guys who don't have a high body count, and they want somebody who kind of live the same lifestyle. I don't see anything wrong with that. Why it's more acceptable for guys to have a higher body count than women, I think that comes from generations of culture, right? If you even look at, where we come from, there's different parts of Africa, where that's common to have multiple wives, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something that transcends, generation to generation. Yeah, it looks different for Black Americans, but they still do it. They, the dudes were still the ones to, and here's the thing, like you see how your dad and your uncles and your cousins do it, right? And so naturally, that's the way that you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Having like a main and then a side over here and then a side on the other side of the block, like, and when you see that, that's what you're used to. That's what you're cut. So you're like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. Almost to the point to where if you aren't doing that, your boys will talk about you.
Yeah,
You know?
and like especially like in a school setting, like let's talk about high school. Like if you're you're in high school, you're 14, 15 years old, and like you haven't had sex yet. Your boys are talking about, oh, bro, what are you doing? You slacking? Like you need to be out here in these streets, but you really don't. But it's kind of like you said, like a cultural thing, and then. Sometimes, some men, they're like teaching their boys like, oh, well, you gotta have, you gotta be a heartbreaker in school. You gotta be, the big man on campus. Like you gotta have all, the bodies and the thotties. Just keeping it 100. So they're just like, but it's so funny that women, we're not taught that.
Right.
We're taught, oh, you have to abstain.
Be a lady.
And keep your flower and don't let anyone deflower you until you get married. Why are we not teaching men the same thing?
I'm just going to say what nobody's saying. I think it's an insecurity amongst men. I think that they think when women have been, if it is something where it is a double standard. Now, what you were saying, if you are someone who does not have a high body count and you want that for yourself as well, that makes perfect sense because it's not a double standard. But if you're someone who does have a high body count and you don't like a woman that does as well, that's an insecurity. You think maybe she can up and leave you because she can get any guy. I think that that's just an insecurity, and a man cannot deal with the fact that there's a woman that is doing the same thing as he is.
I agree. It's definitely a confidence thing. Like it's a confidence thing.
Because
like
if you're secure in yourself, in your relationship, you're not going to be worried about what she's doing. But if you're sitting there thinking about what she may be doing and who she may be doing it with, that's going to cause so much friction in your relationship.
Who she did it with.
She's
not acting with, because that's a problem.
But that's the thing. I think a lot of guys think that they're so insecure that they think that she's going to be doing it.
Out, yeah.
Whether or not she may be completely devoted to this relationship, but the reason he almost does not want her to be that type of person is because he's afraid that she might go do it during their relationship.
It's also projection. Like if I'm doing something and I find out you might be doing something similar, then you probably doing a lot of what I'm doing and some more. Like when you keep things, like when you say, I don't tell you my whole body count. Like I don't tell you on purpose because I don't want you to know. Because if I find out yours is higher than that, that's not so good for me.
Right.
Like,
you're going to be insecure.
Yeah.
So it's confidence is a big one.
I think we should do some questions.
Okay.
Who wants it?
So.
If men show more emotion, why are they seen as weaker?
Ladies? Ladies?
Because sometimes y'all be giving us mixed signals with this. You're like, I want a man who feels, I want him to be in tune with his emotions, right? But if you do it a little too much, then you soft.
Sensitive, weak, crybaby. Yeah, ladies?
Okay, see what had happened was, look, okay, I don't know. I think it's a, I don't know, because maybe it's because I'm taught that I'm okay to fall apart when I need to, but you're not. And then when you do, I'm like, something must be really wrong. He's really breaking everything down. But for me, in the profession I do, like I'm a social worker, I see anybody, regardless of gender, age, break down all the time. So now I'm not saying I'm like desensitized to it, but I have a better understanding as to why you're breaking down. I'm like, okay, well, what's up? Let's talk about it. Like you're not weak in this moment. Like you're a really strong person. You're just going through something, and I'm just here to help you through it. Yeah. So I don't see now, gaining the knowledge that I have now and considering my profession, I don't see it as weak, but other women may say something different.
I mean, I personally don't see it as a sign of weakness. I actually see it as a sign of someone who is self-aware and a sign of someone who has grown and has done inner work, because the men that don't show emotions, those are the men that the relationship is just
Trash.
awful. I mean, it's like you can't communicate about anything. You don't know how he's feeling. I would prefer to be with a man who's a little bit more in touch with his emotions and maybe cries a little bit more, because then we're actually getting somewhere. Like, I can understand what he's going through. We can actually work through things. But if you're not talking, you may think that this makes me a man, but actually you're just ripping your relationship apart.
But what if he's more emotional than you are? What if he's showing more emotions on his sleeve than you are?
That is tough because
Yeah,
But why?
What's this? What's
But
this?
why?
Friend, you don't need to cry all the time.
Like, I want a man with a little bit more emotion, but not too much.
yeah,
Like,
something might be wrong with me.
Because that's not what men do.
But at the end of the day,
It's,
it's my decision.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay,
it's a contract.
interesting.
I've never heard that
Contract.
before.
I'm
But why does something have to be wrong though?
But why you always crying though?
Why are you